I'm sure that as an emerging leader, you want to do anything you can to avoid big leadership mistakes. So in this video, I'm going to share with you 6 common leadership mistakes, but also how to avoid them. Hi, I'm Anne Koopman, and I'm a former engineering leader in the manufacturing world, and now I work as a leadership coach and expert for team development. Make sure you subscribe below so you don't miss out on any future videos around leadership and team development. So when it comes to leadership, there are some mistakes that I see a lot of leaders make. Sometimes it's because they've never learned how to do them differently, or they had role models in their organization that were making these mistakes. And sometimes it's really just because you don't know any better. So listen up, because now I'm going to share with you 6 mistakes and how you can avoid them. Mistake number 1 is to not set clear expectations from the start and throughout the year. So many times, leaders and emerging leaders run into issues with accountability or with managing and providing feedback to the employees, simply because expectations weren't clear on both sides. So expectations might have been very bland or maybe mixed up and confusing, or people were just making assumptions and just thought that everyone was on the same page or had the same agenda. So what you can do to avoid this mistake is to make sure that you break down the company goals to meaningful targets for each and every one of your direct employees. Make it meaningful and define the goals in a way that they can directly impact the outcome of these goals. Help them see how their goals are working towards the company goals. And then also make sure that you talk about clear expectations around how you want to communicate, how you want them to keep you up to date, how often you want to meet face to face, what is your work etiquette, what are the values that you want to work towards to. Being really clear about these expectations from your side is really important and will make it easier down the track to follow up on the performance, but also to provide feedback. Mistake number 2 is that leaders lack insight into their own behaviors and how these come across. So they have a lack of external self-awareness. Some leaders never take the time or have never learned to not only look at how they see themselves, but also how they come across. Do their actions align? They don't know how their behaviors impact the emotions, the motivation, inspiration, and also the work performance of their direct reports and also their other stakeholders. It's absolutely important that you take responsibility about what you say, how you say it, and how you present yourself. As a leader, you have the responsibility to create a work environment that motivates and inspires, and to adapt your behaviors in a way that will serve that. So how do you avoid this mistake? Reflect by yourself. Think about your strength, but also think about your potential blind spots and weaknesses. Where could your strength be misunderstood, for example? Or where are things that you are not quite sure of? What might be your weaknesses when it comes to communication? Start to ask for feedback from people that you trust, but also your direct employees and other stakeholders. Don't just ask your closest friends, because they have a different view to how other people will perceive you, because you will also act completely different in front of people that you trust versus people that you don't know so well. So make sure that you start to ask for feedback from everyone that you're working with. Feedback about your communication and how you come across. Ask them what you can do differently. This information, together with your own internal self-awareness about who you are, your strength, and how you want to be, this together will give you a really good picture. And then you can compare these two, and you can compare whether your internal self-awareness also aligns with how you actually come across. So how it aligns with your external self-awareness. Mistake number 3 is that leaders keep their weaknesses to themselves and they try to hide. Now, this probably comes from this old thinking that leaders have to know it all, have to be the best at everything, and can't show any weakness, because that would create doubt, would undermine their authority. But times have changed. We don't lead based on authority anymore. We lead based on trust, and we also lead based on our ability to influence the people that we lead, and by creating a safe environment. If you are hiding your weaknesses, and if you are not allowing yourself to show that there's things that you don't know or that you don't do so well, then you're also creating an environment where everyone else is scared to admit to mistakes, or even admit to things that they don't know yet, or that they just don't do as well as easily. So you kind of build up this house of cards, or put put on this mask, and it's quite exhausting to trying to keep it up. And over time, pretending that you have no weaknesses will make it really exhausting for you, because you will always have to put on a mask and you will become really stressed when there really are things that you don't do so well. And also, your direct reports, they will see through that. They can spot your weaknesses. They can see it as well. And if you pretend that it doesn't exist, then you're not creating an environment of trust at all. So what can you do about it? Start by looking at your strength first. That will help you to feel confident and to really start to understand who you are, what you naturally do well, how you think, how you build relationships, how you start to make strategic decisions or execute on your work. From there, start to think about what are the things that naturally don't come as easily to you. What are the things that you find difficult? Is it public speaking? Is it looking at a lot of detailed data or numbers? Is it building really deep conversations and connections with the people that you work with? What are the things that don't come as natural to you? What are the tasks that you find tricky and difficult? And then remind yourself of your strength and start to think about how you can use your strength to overcome these weaknesses or limit their impact that they have. We don't want to try and fix our weaknesses. We just want to accept that there are things that we don't do so well that might take us a little bit more time, and that is okay. And also, once you start to see that you have strength and things that you don't do so well, your direct reports will also be able to show their strength and start to be more open about the things that they don't do as well or that they don't enjoy. And then together you can think about, where are we similar? Where are we different? How can we team up to help ourselves to overcome these weaknesses? Mistake number 4 that I see leaders make is that they don't prioritize the time with their direct reports. This often comes down to not having regular one-on-one meetings. It's not enough to just see your employees in different meetings several times a week. You want to have dedicated time with every employee, because that's your time to build trust. That's your time to stay up to date on their work. And that's also their time to share with you their successes, but also ask for support where they need it. It's so crucial. It's not enough to just see them in different meetings. A lot of leaders start out having these one-on-one conversations, and then things get busy. We get stressed. I know how it is. But then they just cancel one meeting, they cancel the next meeting, and they cancel another meeting. And then they just get in the habit of not having these one-on-one conversations, and they think, that'll do, but it's just not enough. So how do you overcome this mistake? Start by scheduling regular one-on-one meetings, 30 minutes, with each of your direct employees. Ideally weekly. If you have too many, then do it every 2 weeks. And you have to stick to that. These can't be canceled. Of course, sometimes things can come up, I know. But general rule is, do not cancel these one-on-one meetings and ensure that they happen on a regular time. This is your secret to really managing the performance of your team and building an effective team that will smash their goals. Mistake number 5 is that leaders avoid any kind of confrontation, conflict, or providing constructive or negative feedback. This is because these things are difficult, and as humans, we have a tendency to avoid anything that makes us feel uncomfortable. So we try to stay away and we try to avoid these and just hope that they will go away by themselves. But these issues will rarely go away. And over time, if you don't address any kind of performance or personal issues within the team, amongst your team members, or in relationships that you have with direct reports or other stakeholders, it will grow into a big thing and a big problem. It can create a very toxic culture, and it can actually have an intense effect on your team performance and the overall culture that you have. So what can you do to address and overcome this mistake is to make sure that you address things that come up right there, right then. If you need to prepare a little bit, of course, you can take a day or two to think about what you want to say and how you want to say it. For more tips on how to prepare for difficult conversations, check out this video up here. But do it as things come up, because then it will be much easier to talk about it, because nobody has placed any extra judgment, any extra thoughts about it and make their own assumptions. Talk about things as they come up, provide feedback as you see it. Don't forget to provide positive feedback as well, as a little side note, but make sure that you address the feedback and the concerns you have right away as it's happening. That will also make it easier for you to explain it on that exact example. If you wait 3 months, you'll be like, oh, this one time when we were in the meeting, the two of you had this issue, and they won't be able to remember exactly what was said. So make it timely and prepare yourself a little bit and then address it right there, right then, so it doesn't grow. Mistake number 6 is that leaders disregard the emotional culture in their team. Emotions is something that's really hard for leaders to talk about, especially if there are underlying negative emotions going around. However, the emotional culture of your team has an immense impact on the performance and the well-being of your team members. And there is always an emotional culture there already, even if it is one of suppressing emotions and not allowing or tolerating any negative feelings whatsoever. This will mean that people will start to get resentful and start to worry too much and start to maybe feel fear, which results in really unproductive behaviors, can lead to more conflict, can lead to burnout, and can lead to overall a toxic culture. So what you can do to overcome this mistake is start to understand how your people need to feel in order to be at their best, in order to feel safe, in order to feel supported, in order to feel motivated in this team environment. Start to define the behaviors that will ensure that these emotions are present, and then really have a discussion with your team on how you can make sure that these underlying basic behaviors are prioritized within your team. Positive emotions are associated by research with better performance and better mental health. So make sure that once you've defined these behaviors and they are documented in a team charter, for example, you also have to make sure that you call people out if they do not behave accordingly. So these were 6 common mistakes that I see leaders make, with my advice on how you can make sure that you avoid stepping into these pitfalls and making these mistakes. If you have any other questions or comments to this video, make sure that you comment below. If there's any other things that you would like to learn more of, put it down in the comments and I can create future videos on these topics. Thank you so much, and I see you soon.